Missed the first 5 minutes anyway. Let's be honest. So yeah, high
Yeah, that's how.
Daily's bullish. That's all you need to know if you've just started watching it back. Um, but pulling back. So obviously, I've got my 4 hour marked as this. Now, obviously, this might not be perfectly right, but it's just what we've got at the minute. So we've currently just taken this 4 hour low here, is what I've got it as. So, and I've got it as this one and not that one because this one here doesn't take it. So just draw a big red line. Red, leave it thin. Yeah, this one here doesn't touch it, so it's just a nothing. Well, it's a 15-minute low, but it's not anything else because it doesn't take this 4 hour low that I've got marked here. So this here, like I say, it's taken it within the last week, last say three, within the last week and a half ish. What we had leading up to that, though, obviously, is we have had obviously a couple of 15-minute bearish swings, and then we had a couple of 15-minute swings to mitigate the high. So I believe, and I hope he's still hit. I hope he's still in this, but I don't think he will be. George caught this trade here, I believe. I don't know if he knew. I don't know if he knew where he was fully in the market, and maybe like say do a huge pullback. But yeah, I'm sure he caught. I'm sure this is what he got in there, marked it up for him. But basically, obviously, it's tapped into something to the left over here. Tapped into that, showing bearish signs, obviously breaking below the 15 along here. Just comes back, mitigates it. And I'm assuming there was an earlier entry than what George actually took as well. So maybe if that's the 1 minute low here, this caused it. It comes back, taps that. It's gone down ever since. So that would have been up here. This would have been probably the first entry. I'm assuming he wouldn't have had it down here because that's a big low to wait for. But again, so if we say that's a low, that's a 15-minute low. It's the same one. That one doesn't take anything further here. So, but I mean, George, he sees it. He sees it how he sees it. So he caught a banger anyway. So who am I to question that man? And as we see, we from there we are making 15-minute bearish structures. So what we currently, let me just highlight that so it can be seen. We need to update this slightly. So from this low here, obviously it pulls back, so it's the pullback is marked as the highest point of price action until it then takes out the previous low or high, depending on which way we're going. So we could well be in the pullback stage now, and what will indicate that we are in a pullback stage is, so obviously this is a 15-minute leg. We've possibly had a little lower time frame break above here. So let me just change time frames for you. So on the way down to making this low, obviously we are making mini 1 minute structures. So start up here. I'm going to go right down there because I don't like any of this as a pullback. Not for any reason, just don't really affect me. So maybe that one instead. Pull back, and then obviously we do take that here. So lower time frame structure there inside of the 15-minute leg. Yeah. I say this week in, week out. I'm not sure if it sinks in for people. But effectively, how I view structure is a 15-minute leg either way, either direction, bullish, bearish, is made up of the 1 minute structures. Yeah. So you get a little structure that forms this overall 15-minute channel, if you like. So turn off the magnet. That one there. So this is just roughly drawn. It's not, but you can sort of see that price is in. I know it breaks that channel, but you can see it's clearly heading bearish for that whole leg there. So inside that will be the 1 minute structure as we see, and I've drawn the majority of it here. Yeah. So for example, if that's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 bearish swings on the 1 minute or lower time frame makes up one leg on the time frame above. So obviously I work 1 minute, 15-minute, 4 hour daily, maybe weekly if you can be bothered. Obviously, it's always recommended that you know where we are higher time frame, but it's not something you need to check on every day, I guess. But yeah, so 5 or 6 swings of bearish 1 minute make up the 15-minute. It'll be the same in the reverse as well. So there'll be 1 minute swings. Bloody mouse just froze again. Oh, yeah. So obviously we get a high pullback, we get a break there, pullback, and then some real small structures, but you get the sort of gist. Something like that, I think. Is that a break there? Yeah, so we get a break there, and then obviously it comes back and probably mitigates something in there. And obviously this pullback swing is relatively high in this swing as well. So perfect places to look for trades for is very high and very low in the previous string structures. Obviously, if there's any questions, by the way, people, please throw them in. Is that new? So what I mean when I say in previous structures, so this is obviously, it showed us earlier on that it's bearish. Let me zoom out so I can show you again. Don't want to do that. Yeah, so we had breaks along here. It's pissing me off. Something's going on my laptop. Anyway, as you see, we get bearish swing structures. Yeah, so we generally looking for preferably sells because the 15 minutes more in our direction. So please change. Here we go. So when I say previous structure, so if we imagine price is where it is on this, yeah, we're 15-minute bearish, price has done lower time frame bullish swings on the 1 minute. So green is my 1 minute. We come up very high into this previous structure. So this is the structure while this is pulling back still because it's not taking the high. It needs to retake the low to cement the 15-minute high. But what we can do is we can anticipate it, because once we are so high up in the structure, as I'll draw me little oh, I use the wrong thing. That's why. Dickhead. Gambox. So once we put the high in, obviously we break 1 minute down here. That gives us a sign that we might be pulling back. And then, as you see, we pull back into the top 25% of this structure. So obviously hitting that top percentage. Obviously, it's not always the case it's going to hit the top 25%, but it's always maybe best to, there's a bit less risk. We also maybe get a trend line as well to indicate that this area is the one that it's maybe going to react from. Maybe not. No, we're not having that. We're not having it. No, not having that one. Doesn't mean it's not up here though. There you go. So trend line, build up a liquidity. Obviously, there's an accumulation in there. Let me just delete this so you can see. So obviously, there's something happens in here. High up here, obviously, there's the imbalance in there. Push from here leads to this liquidity being taken. Yeah, that build up there, sorry, takes that liquidity. Obviously leads to another break to the downside as well. So obviously there's a low, high, low, breaks the low, pulls back, causes another break here. So obviously with the price action that we was looking at. So if price hits this sort of area, obviously it's a 1 minute high, it causes liquidity to be taken, it breaks structure. So obviously what we'd ideally look for is just a 1 minute break of structure in that zone there, which it obviously don't quite reach it, but there'll maybe be some on the seconds, maybe a lower imbalance. So I've roughly marked on the 15. So so leave that. So yeah, pulling back high into the previous structure is mega important, especially if it's bearish. So that's why I always say, obviously, look at if it's pulling back high into the previous structure. If this is pulling back, then this is what we're looking to trade from, something in all that. And obviously we find reasons to do so. So build up liquidity. What caused that to be taken? Yeah, and obviously, like I say, it's something up in this. Obviously, you could mark it lower as well just to be safe, and then you would still wait for a break to the downside. Obviously, as you see in here, we don't get any breaks to the downside, not anywhere near the top, at least, and not like I can see. It's all trending upwards here until this point here when we start taking lows. Yeah. So that's the 15-minute is currently bearish. Like I say, down here, I think because we've taken this 1 minute on the this is current price, by the way. So obviously, I think we're going to get a few swings up, and I think so. I don't know where in here it's going to turn from. We'll take a quick look. So what I've done, drawn a line from the low-ish, lows there. This wick just takes it. What puts in that wick is possibly something in here. That's close though, so it might be worth checking another feed just to. This might not have took it on another feed. That is pretty bang on. So we've got a couple little imbalances. Nothing stands out major for me at the minute. Little zones. All look pretty crap, to be fair. Could even be this here. Yeah, maybe there. Bit shite. Maybe that lowest one's looking the most appealing at the minute. Big push down there. But I mean, if it does come there anyway, even if it hit any of these zones, I'd still be waiting for a break to the downside. So we can also look for trendline liquidity in that as well. But basically, what I would be doing, what I'd be wanting to see is price from there, do a couple of swings just short there. Ideally, we'll see something like this from one of them zones. So obviously, if price comes into there, we'll check some of the imbalances in there in a minute, because that'll be a good indication of where it might actually come from and as well. But I think maybe Monday, depending on what's happened in the world news wise, we'll hopefully continue a couple of swings and start hitting these little areas. Like I say, what I want to see is I want to see a bit of a pullback just before, then tap into one of the zones. Or I mean, my zones might be wrong as well, to be fair, but basically what I want to see is a decent break to the downside in price action. So what we see here, so just before the POI, pulls back, puts in the high, breaks to the downside, and then on the pullback is where we would ideally get in. So hopefully imbalancing there. I want to see that exact same thing somewhere in here, ideally. Because otherwise, if we don't wait for this break to the downside, there's no reason why price can't just continue up. Yeah. So that's why we always wait for the break to the downside, because that's just telling us that it's going to turn around. And once it turns around, if it turns around, this after it breaks, like I say, this pullback is the earliest point in which we can get in on the possible new 15-minute bearish swing being made. So, like I said, I think I'd spit it out. I did post saying that I think GU's going to get another bearish swing. So um, we haven't quite made this POI here. Now, obviously I could be wrong. It's happens quite a bit. But if we look at the DXY, so obviously the DXY is the dollar and it's the opposite of GU because GU is GBP face and then US dollar is the second currency in the name. So basically, dollar strength means GBP weak. Doesn't necessarily mean weakness, but the dollar strength would mean that the chart will effectively go up, especially with the dollar being the biggest monetary thing in the market. Obviously, I think the dollar is like 80% of the whole market. So if that's bullish, generally everything that's correlated with it is going the opposite direction. So why I think we're going to get another swing is because I think the dollar is going to rally up to this zone before it turns back bearish. So obviously we've got a low in here, high there. I mean, it might be this low, to be fair. We get a couple of swings, actually. So, but this low or the one previous, it comes from possibly this zone here. So I think we are possibly going to trend up here and then turn double bearish. So obviously once the dollar turns bearish, GU, is that right? Yeah, GU, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
One goes up, the other one goes down.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is currently lower time frame bullish. That's what I was going to say. So dollar GU down while this goes up to here, and then once this mitigates, obviously this is all speculation. I mean, this might blow through that, and I might be completely wrong, but I genuinely think it's going to come up here and then turn bearish, which means that G will turn bullish. That's right. Yeah, because we're currently bearish, so G will turn bullish when dollar turns weak. So, like I say, another 15-minute swing on this brings this lower to somewhere in maybe this, which is another 4-hour low. Possibly. But I think as well is this also, we've got something going on there. Turn it black. So, and this major, I think we said that was a daily high earlier. Obviously, daily's bullish, and it's possibly something in here that causes this to be taken. So, once this does 2 or 3, 4 hours, say, once it does a couple of swings of the 4 hour, basically, then that would indicate that that's maybe a new 4 hour low once it turns again. So, yeah, maybe big moves coming from this sort of area in the next coming week or two. So, eyes peeled for that, unless I'm majorly wrong. But we'll see. Is there any questions on that, peoples? No?
No, that makes sense.
Sweet. Who we got on tonight? Richard's iPad. Let's see what's going on. So yeah, I'll talk about my oil trades because